Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane has made changes to his executive committee. Some have seen the changes as rewarding those who supported him in the run-up to the ANC's elective campaign, not campaign, but elective conference in the Eastern Cape earlier this year. Mabuyane defeated Babalo Matikizela there to be re-elected as chairperson of the party in the Eastern Cape. Let's take this issue up with Ntsikelelo Breakfast, a political analyst very familiar with the lay of the land in the Eastern Cape. Welcome back to the program, sir. First things first, is this a realignment in terms of a party, an executive and a premier that wants to do better for the people of the Eastern Cape? Or is it a purge of those who did not support him before that conference?
Yeah, I think, Tembegile, this doesn't serve any purpose, the residents of the Eastern Cape. It's about the Premier using the state machinery to dish out favors to his henchmen. It's about him trying to consolidate power. He's employing strategies of political survival. It's about musical chairs. You know, it's not something that is done in pursuit of development for the majority, because there are people who were left out, you know, of this new executive that has been appointed, who stood out. A case in point is Fezeka Nkomonye. She was the MEC of Sports and Arts and Culture. But because she's not aligned to the dominant faction, she was left out. But I guess it comes down to the fact that politics is nothing else but entrenching hegemony. You know, politics about dominance. It's not about a win-win situation. And also, this appointment of the new executive is an antithesis of the argument that the ANC in general and in particular in the Eastern Cape is pursuing unity. Because how do you pursue unity when you are sidelining people, patching them?
And just on that point, we had a very similar conversation on this very show this time last week when there were changes announced in KZN after Nomusa Dube had become premier. So if it is, as you say, an entrenchment of Oscar Mabuyane's standing as premier post-conference, it's not exactly an anomaly in the ANC. And what many people are then still trying to make sense of is why it is that the party seems to have such an awkwardness in terms of having premiers and even presidents who can coexist in an executive, even with people who may not have been their allies before a conference.
Yeah, I think some people think that the winner must take all. You know, I think maybe there might be an element of lack of trust. So you can see that some ANC members, they see politics as a zero-sum game as opposed to a win-win situation. And this, it escalates, Tembegile, the magnitude of the conflict within the party, and also by so doing it will have a spillover effect to the state machinery. But maybe Oscar Mabuyane also, on the other hand, he feels let down by some of the people that he trusted that maybe might have betrayed him, like a case in point, Lubabalo. Some people accused him of diverting certain tenders to certain people, and so on. So no wonder he has appointed those of his own. But in the final analysis, this has nothing to do with development for the people of the Eastern Cape.
Well, Mabuyane yesterday, in a quote that he gave yesterday, said this, that the team ticks the requisite boxes as far as leadership skills. So can both things be true, that this is a solid team, yet it is indeed a team selected on the basis of who's an ally of the Premier and who isn't?
I think we need to separate facts from opinions. So the question is, what are the facts? Let's look at inequality. It has been increasing year in and year out since he ascended to the helm of power. Let's look at unemployment. It has gone worse, especially under the circumstances of COVID-19. You know, the same goes to poverty. And some of those people have been around the block, you know, serving side by side with him. So his argument falls short.
And he was quite, shall we say, pleased with himself, the Premier, yesterday when he announced the appointment of a new Social Development MEC, Fanta, I believe is her name. He believes that she will bring the right energy to deal with the many issues when you look at the condition of the elderly in the Eastern Cape, the poor as well. Is that a solid appointment?
Well, time will tell, but what I know is that there are a lot of resources in that department. Some people might argue the exact opposite, that even himself has got a vested interest in some of the departments in terms of the resources that are available, business, tenders, and so on. So I don't think that the agenda is about pursuing development. I don't think so. Of course not.
What are the conditions of the people in the Eastern Cape? I mean, it's a province that comes up a lot when you watch news reports. Just what was last year, I believe, when we saw people crossing a river in a drum because they'd been begging and pleading for a bridge to be built for years. It hadn't happened. We've seen kids having to cross through rivers as well to get to a school on the other side. Many villages still without electricity. Yet the Eastern Cape is still one of those provinces where the ANC can, to a degree, safely say that it's guaranteed victory in the election overall.
Yeah, Eastern Cape on the whole, it's a rural province, and the reason why the electoral performance of the ANC has not been dealt with a blow, except here in our own backyard in Gqeberha, is because it is a rural in nature, and also there is a strategic relationship between the powers that be, the ANC and the traditional leaders. They are on the payroll of government, and in return they bring the votes in order for the ANC to hold on to power. That's why the ANC is still dominant, especially in rural municipalities. But of course, there has been a decline here in the Bay, as I said. You see, if you look at, for instance, I mean, there are two metropolitan municipalities. The other one is the Buffalo City. Buffalo City is a different ball game altogether because of the divide between the rural aspect of the municipality and also the urban aspect. So the ANC still has some grip in terms of votes and so on. So I think the ANC maybe is still going to be in power here, even when elections are held.
Right. I want to pick up on something that you said now, Dr. Breakfast, when you said traditional leaders are on the payroll of the ANC. What do you mean by that?
Traditional leaders have a say, Thembekile, in terms of the political or electoral behavior of voters. They are the ones who tell the voters how they must. I mean, why did the EFF come down here to give the other king a gift? It's because they know the influence of traditional leaders. They did not do that just for fun. You know what I mean? There's a rationale behind that. So they know the influence of traditional leaders. So traditional leaders play a significant role in post-colonial states in terms of the political behavior of the electorate. No wonder the ANC, some people argue that it has become a rural party because it still has a grip in villages. You know, political power comes from two sources. It comes from rural areas and also from urban centers. So on the whole, I mean, you can see it yourself. I mean, the ANC has been declining in urban centers, but not in rural areas.
Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast, always a pleasure to speak to you, sir. Thank you very much for your time.